G'day, legends. So Ilia Topuria has done some talking on this Spanish podcast. He said a lot of weird and wild things, gotten a reaction from Conor McGregor, laid out the future of his career. So we're going to break it all down. We're going to react to it in today's video. We are talking about Ilia Topuria doing this Spanish podcast. And I got to say, this sort of leads into what I was talking about yesterday, about how big of a fight Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane is, how big that's going to be for the UFC, and how hard it is to understand it if you're not from Europe, right? You really can't picture these things if you're just used to looking at things through like a regular American, Australian, Canadian worldview. Like this podcast, for example, being filmed in Europe, in an auditorium, like a full crowd, clapping along, cheering. Do you know what I mean? This ain't bloody Logan Paul or the Nelk boys or whatever, just hanging out in their bedroom, yeah? Can't pull a crowd to film their podcast in their wildest dreams. No. These things are massive. When you actually start to look at the European audience, a Tom Aspinall Cyril Gane fight, England versus France, think about that French audience every single time we go to France. Now imagine that for the heavyweight title of the world. You know what I'm saying? Massive. And Ilia Topuria over in France, over in Europe, huge mega star on the European side of MMA. So, having said that, I'm not going to be showing you too many clips because they are all in Spanish. I'll show one because I think the delivery is just hilarious. But I won't show too many clips because they all are in Spanish. And we'll sort of just read everything and do everything off Twitter because I think an Aussie playing Spanish clips to an American audience is going to be a lot of things lost in translation there. But having said that, I think we will kick it off with a clip, number one, because I think it's just hilarious and cold-blooded. But then as we read through the rest of the things that Ilia said during this podcast, we can all sort of picture what the auditorium looks like while he's saying it. So let us check out this one, right? He's answering some questions, talking about the future of his career. Just this line to kick things off is just cold-blooded.
Pero al que lo voy a invitar personalmente porque vive ahí es a Messi. Así que se joda Cristiano mientras exista Messi.
El titular, ya tenemos el titular. Esta no la vi venir, Ilia.
Claro.
Es que esta es de estas que haces tú.
Volkanovski y Holloway tampoco.
Poor Alexander Volkanovski. Poor Max Holloway. They become the butt of Ilia Topuria's jokes. It's too cruel, right? And then the other bit of that is like some soccer reference. I don't get it. It's not important. You know what I mean? It's soccer. You guys kick a ball of air around a grassy field. It's not a real job, you know? MMA. Fists, blood, brain damage, literal life-changing injuries. Michael Bisping hasn't even got an eye anymore. It's real, you know? Not like soccer. Kicking some air pretending to get hurt so you could get a score, a freebie or something. It's like, grow up, soccer fans. Grow up. It's not a real sport. MMA is. Cage fighting. Brain damage. Reject modernity. Become based. I do love that line from Ilia Topuria though. Like Volkanovski didn't see it coming either. Insanity. Anyway, let's look at the rest of what Ilia was saying because he was sort of laying out the rest of his career, right? He was talking about how he wants to move up to lightweight and fight Charles Oliveira, which is wild considering that we're talking about him fighting Volk or him fighting Movzar, and to consider even moving up to lightweight to grab another title of one defense is insane. But then to not even go after the title, to just say, I want to go after Charles Oliveira is very interesting and not something that I expected from Ilia Topuria. Maybe Ilia knows what's going on here. Look, even after that one title defense against Max Holloway, and it's like the cleanest title defense you can ever get. Max Holloway was in his absolute prime, coming off the absolute best fight he'd ever done. You know, like you don't get a cleaner first title defense than what he did to Max Holloway. But what he was going on to say is that he wants to retire by the time he's 30 years old. And if Ilia Topuria is 27 now, then retiring by the time he's 30 years old, that gives us about 2 years. Like if he's going to turn 28, then, you know, that gives us about 2 years left. And let's face it, Ilia Topuria, he's become one of these UFC fighters, one of these bigger name stars in the UFC that we can really only expect to fight twice a year. That's 4 fights. Ilia Topuria is telling us that he has 4 fights left. And when you put it like that, I can kind of understand where he's coming from here when he says that he is done with featherweight. He said, right now in my division, I have no desire to defend the belt anymore. Now, if he's serious, right? Now, who am I kidding here? I'm a real Ilia fan, okay? I'm coming out of the closet. I'm an Ilia fan, right? If we are serious about this, and this is the decision and the direction that we are going to be taking our career in, Ilia, then I get it, right? Now, I know that there are going to be some haters out there that are saying that we are ducking Movzar harder than John Jones is ducking Aspinall. But seriously, when you look at it in the next two fights, Arman Tsarukyan, right? When you look at Charles Oliveira, right? Arman Tsarukyan, he did really, really well against Charles, right? And Arman is the shorter guy, and he did so well that for some reason, some judges gave it to him on the scorecards. Michael Chandler had Charles Oliveira backpacking for life in the 5th round. Now, I understand that the 87 unanswered shots to the back of the head might have had Charles a little bit wobbly, you guys. But the point remains, Chandler did have success, and he is far shorter and far more retarded than we are. El Matador. We are a genius at setting up the exchanges, setting up the trading shots. Then we execute, as El Matadors do. And if Ilia does have 4 fights left, like he says he does, then let me paint you 2 scenarios right here. Scenario number 1. We fight Volkanovski and beat him as a free legacy fight. Then, as our division is getting super dangerous with Movzar Evloev right there and Diego Lopez, we simply walk away. And the power of walking away in MMA is hugely underrated. You know what I mean? Like, look at the amount of water that the fans carry for Khabib when he walked away without even really like locking in some sort of BJ Penn-esque legacy at lightweight. Look at the amount of water that the fans carry for GSP. I do this myself when he walked away from Hendricks. Or look at the amount of water that the John Jones fans carry for him right now as he is just openly walking away from Tom Aspinall. Being able to just say, I've done enough, I'm undefeated in this area of my career, and I'm just bouncing, is massive in MMA, and fighters do not do it enough. They go on to Anderson Silva their careers against Jake Paul. We beat Volk, and we just walk away from featherweight, leave the belt behind. There's 3 out of our 4 fights left. Now, then because we only defended our belt at featherweight against 2 people, Volkanovski and Max Holloway, the UFC are like, no title shot for you. But that's no problem. No problem. No problem at lightweight at all. Give us Gaethje or Oliveira. Very winnable matchups for Ilia Topuria. Very winnable. Assume you win either Gaethje or Oliveira. Now you have 2 fights left in your career, and you are the clear number 1 lightweight contender. So then you fight for the lightweight title, and you win it. Maybe you get in 1 defense, and you walk away as one of the GOATs of the sport. Or you lose the fight at the lightweight title. That's all right. You've still got 1 more fight left in your career. You've still got the I've still got it fight. That's option number 1. Okay, that's scenario number 1. Beat Volk, walk away from featherweight, move up, beat either a Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and then fight for the title, and then see what happens there with your last fight. Or option number 2, stay at featherweight, right? Beat Volk. Then you risk losing to, say, a Movzar Evloev. Now, if you want to move up, now you're looking at moving up in the rankings at number 15 to 7 at lightweight, which the way that lightweight division is set up right now is a much harder run to the title if you have got 4 fights left in your career and you're just coming off let's face it, a decision loss to Movzar Evloev. It's not like Movzar is going to be sleeping Ilia Topuria, is it? If you're Ilia Topuria, which one out of those 2 scenarios sound easier for you? I know which one sounds easier for us. I don't blame Ilia Topuria for wanting to set things up in his career this way if he is deadly serious about leaving the sport at 30 years old. This, of course, garnered some attention from Conor McGregor, who poked a little bit of fun at Ilia Topuria. I guess Conor needed to get a win somewhere, considering he is considering just packing up and leaving Ireland altogether now that his street art murals are getting painted over and his whiskey is being torn off the shelves and Conor McGregor's entire world is just collapsing around him. But hey, mate, have fun just banging midgets at backyard BKFC parties. You seem to be living the absolute dream. How far the greats have fallen. Either way, before this pivots into a trashing Conor McGregor video, there are my thoughts on Ilia Topuria and his idea about moving up a weight class. Kind of makes sense if you see the way that Ilia wants to structure the end of his career. Really, actually sort of for real 4D chess this time, not just a bunch of MMA fighters throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. Let me know what you think about it down there in the comments, right? Do you think Ilia Topuria moving up to lightweight, getting a win in the top 5 is smarter than staying around and seeing what happens with Movsar Evloev? Do you think he's ducking Movsar Evloev? Do you think that Islam Makhachev is ducking us, Ilia Topuria, because he's scared of us? Let me know all of that down there in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and this is your first time here, g'day. My name is Dougie. I make an MMA video every single day. I try and go live 3 times a week. It's looking very hard to do this week. I'm not going to lie. I've got a lot of work to get through in my regular job. Builders are pushing to get things locked up and finished by Christmas, and I'm one of the finishing trades. So all the builders are right up me at the moment, as they say in the building industry. But I'm doing my best to keep up with the MMA content until we get over to the Christmas break. If you want to support the channel and help me be able to provide more time in front of the camera, then go ahead, hit that like button, help this channel grow. And until then, I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.